with a lot being said by many different kind of people surrounding his future. And all the journalists have come out and spoken about it today. Matt Law says that Spurs are not planning to hit the panic button and are focused on doing everything in the club's power to help Ange and his players turn around the situation. Sammy Mockbell says that Daniel Levy is prepared to give Ange Postecoglou every opportunity to turn around his fortunes at the club. Dan Kilpatrick says that Ange Postecoglou's future is not up in the air despite Tottenham suffering another defeat at the hands of Chelsea yesterday. The Spurs board consider its business as usual this week as the team prepares for Thursday's visit to Rangers in the Europa League and Sunday's trip to Southampton, and remain committed to a long-term project under Ange Postecoglou. John Cross says that Ange Postecoglou retains the support of the Tottenham squad despite the team's disappointing start to the season. BBC claim that one Tottenham player whose identity is withheld to protect his position in the dressing room simply believes the squad lacks depth and further investment is needed to push towards the top of the table. The players have given their support to Postecoglou on the record, and that positive feeling is being reflected in an off-the-record conversation with BBC Sport. And Sky Sports say that Ange Postecoglou has met with Johan Lang to discuss a potential January transfer business that could help Tottenham improve Tottenham's fortunes. And also, Cuti Romero came out in support of Ange Postecoglou after the game yesterday as well, which is quite significant in my opinion. But yeah, doesn't seem like Spurs are pushing any sort of panic button just yet. You know, you never know what can happen after a couple of results, positive or negative. But yeah, obviously you think this is a good thing.
I think it's the right decision. Yeah, I think if the players still retain the support of the manager, I think that's the best course of action to stick with them. I think when you've looked at the kind of ending of a lot of other tenures, Mourinho, Conte, and tenures like that, there's always been a lot of reports about losses of the dressing room, falling out with players, dreary kind of atmosphere around the training ground, all this kind of stuff. At the moment, that's not the case here. At the moment, I was just reading an article in The Athletic as well. It was quite a good article about saying the results definitely are evidence that the Postecoglou project isn't working, but it would still be a big mistake to sack him. And that's kind of where I kind of land at the moment. I feel, yes, results are not good enough. We shouldn't be 11th after 15 games, given the players that we have. I think that's evident. I think no one would have accepted that at the beginning of the season, and I still believe that just because it's not where we are at the moment isn't good enough, doesn't mean we should chuck away the good stuff that Ange football can give us. And I think we should aim to get that football more consistently, rather than just chuck away basically the work that we've put in so far. It was always going to be rough, probably not as rough as this, to be honest, but it was always going to be a difficult rebuild and whatever since he took over. And he did get fifth last season. This season you wanted to push on from that, and we haven't done that. That's the reality. We could argue we've gone backwards, six wins and 7 defeats in our first 15 games, and that is not a position we should be in. But have I seen enough when things are good to suggest that if we can get that more consistently, we can go back in the right direction? And if we get through this rough period, we can start to turn results. I do think I have seen enough, in my opinion. Not to say that we are going to progress from last season in terms of finishing higher than 5th. I think 5th at this point, given how many games we've dropped, is probably our ceiling. But we're still in the cups. Given how good we can be in one-off games, does that not mean we can still do something in the cups? I do believe that. If the players still believe that they want this manager in charge, then I'm willing to stick with it, and that's kind of where I land. And I think it's the right decision to stick with him for the time being.
Yeah, look, I don't really know how to feel on it, because I feel like the job that he's doing at the moment is clearly not good enough for where we want to be. Like, the results over the last year have been nowhere near good enough. I feel like the performances are regressing at look, the Chelsea performance was okay in patches, but still not good enough in my opinion. And I feel like the worrying performances, like the one that we saw last week at Bournemouth, that last half an hour, probably one of the worst half an hours I've seen as a Spurs fan. It was definitely up there anyway. You look at the Ipswich game, the Palace game, second half at Brighton, Galatasaray, all these games in such a short space of time. are very concerning to me, and I'm very worried about in the direction this season is going. Do I want Ange sacked? I'm not too sure. Do I have belief in Ange? At the moment, not too much, where I had a lot of belief in him at the beginning of the season and definitely throughout last season, even when the results weren't going our way. I always said that there's no point in keep hiring and firing and sacking managers. And I've always said that we need to stick with a project finally. And I thought Ange was the guy that we should be sticking with. But I'm just not seeing any sort of progression this season. And that's the massively concerning thing for me. Do I think that firing him right now is the right course of action? Probably not, because we just don't have anywhere to turn to after that. And I don't feel anyone can come in at this stage of a season, anyone that's available anyway. I mean, you can force someone out of a club like Manchester United did with Ruben Amorim, or maybe you can get a kind of short-term success in that kind of sense, maybe, but it's a far cry. Like, I'm trying to think who we can get, and I don't think you can get anyone out of the Premier League clubs that we'd probably want, like the Bournemouth manager, even if you wanted someone like a McKenna from Ipswich. Is he going to leave? Maybe. But I don't know. I just feel like...
When you say you've always wanted to see Tottenham stick with a project, isn't that what this looks like? Sticking with it?
Yeah, and that's what I'm... Yes and no. Like, I would have thought that we'd be showing signs of progression, and I don't think we are showing signs of progression. So I don't want to stick with it just for sticking with its sake. Yeah, you know, I want to stick with it with me seeing light at the end of the tunnel, which I don't see at the moment.
But have you not seen enough that when things do go right, that we can be a very good football team? So isn't that enough for you? Maybe it's not enough for you, but isn't that enough to to suggest that if we can get back to those levels, then maybe we can go on a bit of a run?
But I don't think we've ever shown consistent levels. Yeah, I mean, if we did once upon a time did show these consistent levels that we can reach those heights consistently, then maybe I would be more willing to stick with it.
That's always the hardest thing to do.
Correct, but you look at it as well, and you look at the tactics that he deploys, and you look at it, I think other teams know how he's going to set up, and I think other teams have clearly identified ways how they can get at us at a consistent basis, and I feel like he's never going to change those ways. And once we come up against specific systems and specific teams, we're always going to come under pressure, and we're always going to concede chances and goals and ultimately not win games. So do I think the way that Ange Postecoglou plays, can he get us to the top? Can he not even get us to the top, but consistently even finishing fourth? I don't think he can. And I think when you're looking at the evidence, when you're looking at the players that we have, the players he has at his disposal, it's much better than what he's showing ever since the end of the first 10 games of last season. And he should be doing a lot better. And there's no reason why he shouldn't be.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, but I'm just saying, if we're going to stick with this project, we've invested in youth and all this kind of stuff, then we might as well just see it through, right? I know we all want progression, and of course, if we finish 11th, then he should be gone by the end of the season. I don't believe we'll finish in that position. I believe we will finish higher, but I think I've seen enough when things are good for me to believe that things can turn, and that when things are good, we can win football games again. And if we have embarked on this project, and we're better off instead of chucking away 15 games in. I've seen enough in the football when the football is going well for me just to stick with it for the time being, instead of just throwing it in the bin, essentially. And that's what I guess the hierarchy are feeling as well, that they've started this project and they've given him a 4-year contract, and they might as well just go with it instead of just ripping it up now at this point.
Yeah, that's how I feel. That's how you feel.